Hello, how's it going out there? Um, I'm thanking somebody very much on a text, and so I need to finish that before I get started here. But now we're here. Welcome in. If you don't know me, I'm Lauren Lefkowitz. I am an executive coach, and I believe fine is a trap, and fine is the thing that we say we are when we're actually like very much not fine, very much not fine. But if we say we're not fine, we're going to feel really bad about it. And then things are going to feel terrible. And then we have to admit everything is terrible and everything is hard and we don't know how to fix it. And if we don't know how to fix it, then like we're stuck and we don't want to be stuck. So we're fine. We're fine. I'm fine. It's fine. This is fine. I've been going live for the last couple of days, and I'm going to keep going live every day for as long as it feels good to go live every day, or at least every weekday. And talking about different topics that relate to who and how we are in the workplace and how being corporate people, corporate leaders is hard. And it is hard. And also it can be amazing. And for the people that I work with, a lot of times it becomes amazing. And so here we are. So today I'm going to be talking about this quote from the movie Beaches. So if you are of an age, I'm in my late 40s. I saw Beaches when I was 12 years old, and I saw it in the movie theater. I thought it was like such a great friendship movie. And I'm going to give you some spoilers here. So if you haven't seen Beaches, I'm not giving you like end of movie spoilers, but I'm throwing some stuff in there that is meaningful from the movie. But basically the movie is about, it's Bette Midler and Barbara Hershey, and they become best friends as little girls. And, in the olden days, we used to use letter writing as a form of communication. And so they use letter writing throughout their childhoods to keep in touch with each other. And then they move to the same place as adults and get to be roommates. Anyway, in the movie, Barbara Hershey, who is an activist and a civil rights lawyer, and like gets out there fist pumping in the air, protesting. She is like for the people, right? She is out there showing the world that she is fighting for them. And then she marries this man and decides to stay at home. But it's not an empowered decision. And I love if you want to stay at home, an empowered decision to stay at home, like do that, 100% do that. But it was not an empowered decision for her in this movie. And so she is staying at home, and there's this scene, and I posted it on my LinkedIn today. And so if you have a moment, go to that post and look at the scene. But there's a scene where she's sitting at breakfast with her husband, and he's busy. And he is finishing his coffee and getting ready to go to work. And he says to her, "What are you going to do today?" And she says, I'm going to buy a wrench," in this like really soft voice. And he says, "Why are you going to buy a wrench?" And she says, "We don't have one." And you can hear in her voice how bored she is, that all she can consider doing is buying a wrench. Like that's the thing that's going to take up her day. And she probably will move really slowly to get out of the house, to go to the hardware store. She will probably mull over the wrenches for a while, because who even knows what kind of wrench you need when you don't really use a wrench. And that will be her day. And so here's this woman who used to like go out into the streets and fight for people to keep their housing and fight for people to have rights. And then in she comes to this very small life in a very big house with a very hardworking husband, who doesn't seem like a great guy. And like her whole life is in this house. And the scene ends with him kissing her goodbye as he goes off to work, and her like picking up an apple from the fruit basket on their table and balancing it on her head. because like she's so bored. She doesn't have anything to do. So my 12-year-old brain incorporated that into my head. And early on, I learned the lesson, better busy than bored, right? Who has learned that lesson? Raise your hand here, right? Better busy than bored. Absolutely. I'd rather be busy and active and engaged in stuff, even if it's too much stuff, than bored out of my mind. And in my little girl brain, those were the two options. I am busy or I am bored. And as a kid, and I think this is like true for a lot of like boomers and Gen Xers and millennials, we weren't really allowed to be bored. So like if I went to my parents and said I was bored, like my parents could think of a job for me to do, cleaning the toilets or folding laundry or helping prepare dinner, which were all like very normal kid things to do. But the lesson that like got wrapped up in my brain was be busy, contribute to the house, to the family, to the workplace, to society at large, get in there, be busy, and don't get bored, and don't, sort of earn your keep, was sort of the lesson. And when I started being coached, when I hired my very first coach, and I'm going to talk about how I got to hiring my very first coach in my next live, because I think that's a really important piece of like who I am and where I am today. But when I hired my first coach, I was part of the work was getting me down from 80 to 100 hours a week to like something more reasonable. Like 40 hours a week wasn't even in my radar, but getting myself down from 80 plus hours a week. And I hit this first sort of level of less work where I could get things done. So I got myself down to like 60, 65 hours a week. Still too much for me, by the way. But I got myself down from 80 plus hours to 60, 65 hours a week. And so it was happening that at 6 or 7 p.m., I wasn't busy. I didn't have things I had to do. And when you work 80 to 100 hours a week, that includes weekends. That includes, running an errand here or there, running to the grocery store during a break between meetings and stuffing things in the office refrigerator so that you would have something for dinner that night, leaving the office so you could make it to the pharmacy before the pharmacy closed. Like there was a lot of planning of squeezing stuff in. So now here I was a couple of months into being coached, and I'd gotten myself down to 60, 65 hours a week. And I'll buy a wrench kept coming into my head because I would get home at the end of the day, or be home. This was the beginning of COVID. And so we were working from home. And also I was going to the office and was often the only one in the office because we were constructing a new office and the construction workers were there and there had to be someone to stop in and supervise. And if I was going to be there anyway, I may as well work in the office for most of the day. And so I would go into the office and then I would come home and it would only be 6 or 7 p.m. Well, I didn't know what people did with their evenings. And so, or their weekends, right? Like I was really working hard to not be working 7 days a week, not be working 15-hour days. And I didn't know what to do with myself in the downtime. Because now I could wander the grocery store. Now I could decide to go to CVS to pick up a prescription at any time in the evening or any time on the weekend. And so there was this shift in energy that nothing was really urgent. So the first thing I did was I made everything urgent. That was my first gig in not being swamped all the time, was making everything urgent. I was on top of everything. Errands were run, doctor's appointments were made, organizing things was intact, catching up on people I hadn't talked to in a while, up to date. Bills had always been paid, but I was automating things. And, I had done all of the doing to run a good household for myself and my dog. And I was starting to hit this level of boredom. So I was numbing out in front of the TV, which I knew wasn't really a long-term solution. And numbing out in front of the TV is very different than I want to binge watch this, or I'm choosing to do this, or I'm choosing to be in this. It was like, I don't have anything else to do. What should I watch instead? And I think a lot of people run into this. I run into this a ton with my clients, that they get to a point where they've started to set boundaries and they don't know what to do with that time or space. And so I called my coach and I said, I think I'm going to go back to working like just a little bit more, like 60 to 65 hours a week isn't enough for me because I don't know what to do with my time. And all I keep thinking about is, I think I'll buy a wrench, or I'll go buy a wrench, whatever the exact line is. Because I had time and space and I didn't have hobbies. I was still in burnout, so I didn't have the like real capacity to get like wrapped up in a book. I had a book club, so I had a responsibility to read that book club book. So I would get that done and then I would have space again. And the challenge with having space and not having anything to fill, any doing to fill it, and not knowing or understanding how to just be meditating or sitting outside with a chair or meeting up with a friend in a like leisurely fashion, or taking myself out to dinner, or not squeezing everything into every moment. I didn't know how to do it. My clients very often start boundary setting and they don't know what to do with their time. And there is this urge and urgency to go back to the way things are or were, to bounce back, to backslide into how things have been, because we know that. We know the familiarity of that. And it feels better, in theory, feels better to be busy and feel like you're contributing and impacting than to be bored and feel like you're not. And so there was this fear that lived inside of me. And there is this fear that lives inside of busy people, especially busy corporate people like us, who have put their heart and soul into being good at work. And backing out of that by choice, and then not knowing what to do with the time and space, is really scary. It also passes and it comes back. Okay. So it comes and it goes, right? And with each new level of learning about ourselves, with each new practice of taking care of ourselves and being there for ourselves, showing up for ourselves in new ways, there can be this new level of panic of like, well, what do I do if I'm not contributing to my corporate job 5, 6, 7 days a week, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day? You do figure it out. And that's why you continue with coaching. That's why you don't have one coaching session, feel like you've gone to a motivational speech, and then walk away going, I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to make everything great for myself. And it's going to be amazing. And then 2 days later, you feel like you're falling apart again because you didn't implement anything. You just got excited about implementing things. And so in continuing to work with my coach, there was this exploration of what I wanted to do, how I wanted things to be. And buying a wrench never made it back on the list. I might have a wrench now. I'm not sure. One of my friends recently gave me some hand-me-down tools that were her aunt's, and there might be a wrench in there. I don't really know what to do with a wrench because I don't really have a lot of bolts around here. Or nuts. Nuts are I don't have a lot of nuts or bolts around here, really, both end. And everything that I have can usually be handled with a screwdriver, a hammer, or a hex Allen wrench. And so I understand the fear. I've lived the fear of being in a position where the only thought in our head is like, how can I fill my day? And living in this regret of boundary setting and goal setting in a new way and looking out for ourselves in a new way, and then not knowing what to do with the success of that. Success is not always easiness and celebration. Success can be really terrifying. And we get to ask ourselves, okay, what do I want to do with this fear? Do I want to backslide and go back to where I was? Do I want to start a side gig? Do I want a second job? Do I want to take a course? Do I want to get a degree? And yeah, I did some of that, right? Like I was trading time for time, where I was limiting my time in the office, but I was upping my time building my business. I was limiting my time in the office more, and I was getting my the coach certification that I had never gone after. And then eventually I balanced out to, oh, look at that. I work 40 hours a week-ish. And I kept hitting these new levels of, I don't know what to do with all this time. I will tell you that I have figured out what to do with all of this time. I have clients who figure out what to do with all of this time. The end game is worth the struggle in the middle. I have clients who remember that they like to sew. I have clients who remember that they liked art. I have clients who like to drink wine, and they like used to drink wine while they were finishing their work, and now they sit and enjoy some wine. I have clients who just like their dogs and want to sit out on the deck while their dog wanders the backyard. All of that is the space that you get to create for yourself when you do the work of emerging from a boundaryless, busyness-filled, burnout way of career and life. So I'm going to leave you with that today. Go check out my LinkedIn post from earlier today. I'm going to link this video in there, but go check out that post because it has a little clip from the movie from Beaches. And if you haven't seen Beaches, you need like a real good girlfriend movie cry, go watch that. Because like, it's one of those movies where like I can think about certain scenes and well up. And it's just like a lovely movie about friendship. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about how I decided to get a coach, why it was such a hard decision for me, and how I went from feeling humiliated about it and the idea of it to feeling really empowered about it and really actually excited about it. And now I've never stopped having a coach. So join me tomorrow for that. And thanks so much for being here today. Take care.